I wanted to ask you about the toll this work takes on you, because you're uncovering the darkest and most terrible mysteries for people, but you also have the opportunity to, when all goes right, to reunite people. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that? That's something I think most of us can't quite imagine how that must feel.
I feel very privileged to be able to do this, and honored to be able to serve families of people who've gone missing for decades. And whatever we go through, I mean, there are some sacrifices, but that's nothing in comparison to what the communities or the families go through on a daily basis. I mean, a lot of times the people who committed these crimes still live in these communities, and still, till today, have power over these families. So for us, it's just a matter of taking on the responsibility of what it means to be able to contribute. And from a forensic anthropology point of view, it's fairly straightforward. We search for the bodies and we try to give them back. But to be able to get people like Ryan and Frank and Claudia involved in telling the stories, it elevates it to a different level, because it's only through them that we can reach a wider audience. So we work with the individuals and the families, but it is because of them and because of you that we can tell the story. And that's important to them. It's important to the families that their stories are known outside of Guatemala.
I mean, to that point, just to add, my second full day in Guatemala was the opening sequence that you see after the titles of the exhumation that was taking place. And so I was on the scout with members of the Shoah Foundation, just to get a lay of the land and kind of figure out what was this country that was very much the character of this story. And Fredy drove us in the mountains for hours on a road that was really not a road. And we arrived to this exhumation in the rain, and I felt a desire to film what I was seeing, having never seen anything quite like that. And yet the community is surrounding this kind of inverse of a funeral. And it felt like, can I do this? And so I remember reaching out to Fredy and saying, is it okay for me to film? And the response from the community was immediate, which was, we want you to film this. We want this to be seen. We want this story to, and so I found myself in the whole, in this mass grave, filming some imagery. I had no frame of reference in my incredibly privileged, naive, middle of the Midwest upbringing, that this is a reality of something that had taken place in my lifetime in a place that is closer, as Fredy said, to New York than LA. And that over and over again, as we went into communities throughout Guatemala with the Forensic Anthropology Foundation of Guatemala as really our guide, over and over again, communities and individuals welcomed us into their homes and shared the most traumatic histories and testimonies you can imagine, all for the purpose of wanting to make sure that their loved ones didn't disappear and hadn't died in vain, and that there was a North American audience and a U.S. audience that was hopefully going to be made aware of their loss and their story.